Imagine there are 4 people retiring today. They're the same age and they have the same dreams. The only difference is the amount they have invested for retirement. In this series, I'm going to explore how their lives could unfold, financially speaking, dollar by dollar and decision by decision, to make sure that you can get a good idea of what your retirement will look like. We're revisiting Frasier Crane today. 3 weeks ago, he had $500,000 and a rocky projection. 2 weeks ago, $750,000, and things were looking pretty good. Last week, he had $1 million and things started to look really, really good for him, and we added some travel in. Now we're dreaming a little bit, and he's got $2 million ready for retirement. 1 million RRSPs, 125,000 TFSA, and the difference is in a non-registered. Put all of those things together and Frasier now has a 195% goal achievement score in my software. This should come as no real surprise, but it's an incredibly impressive number. For me, what a 195% goal achievement score means, before I do any planning, that is, of course, that this person has wildly overshot their retirement projection goal. And so we have loads of room for extra spending, maybe giving away, putting money into the community, whatever it is that's important to him. My objective now is obviously not a rescue mission, but it's to increase that 195% number as high as I can. Then I'm going to drive it down with extra spending on himself. So let's get into the software. So just a reminder, a baseline scenario is doing what the average Canadian is doing. So CPP is taking at 65, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a 195% goal achievement, obviously great. And again, no big surprise based on the level of investments that he has. What isn't great for Frasier here is that he's leaving $2.7 million of financial assets and his condo in his estate. This may sound appealing to leave $2.7 million in your estate, but to me, it is a massive failure. The whole point of why you are working so hard to get to retirement with the investments that you have, whether they be $500,000 or $2 million like this, is that you have that money to enjoy on yourself in retirement and your family. To leave $2.7 million on the table at estate time, to me, is nothing short of a failure. So before I address driving that failure down by adding more spending, I first want to increase the goal achievement score by doing some financial planning. In Frasier's case here, I'm delaying both CPP and OAS, which for me is very unusual. But in his case, he has so much extra, it makes sense to delay both, especially when we pair that with my next recommendation, which is to do an income target. So I use the software to target a specific income to manage his taxation and to keep him under the threshold for OAS clawback, meaning he shouldn't see that throughout his entire projection, barring some unforeseen circumstances. Lastly, I also shift the priority to registered assets first, which if you've watched the channel for a while, you're not surprised by that one either. So when I compare side by side the baseline projection to the recommendation plan that I put together, I've actually dropped Frasier's goal achievement score by 1%, which does not sound like great financial advice. And in fact, if you look just at what we're seeing here, I've also increased his personal income tax over the entire amount by $57,000. So far, I don't think I'm doing a great job, but let's scroll down a little bit. Oh, I have increased his government benefits by $183,000. I've decreased his OAS clawback by $10,000. Sorry, I misspoke before. There is some clawback, just not a lot of it over the entire thing. Apologize for that. And when I go to the very, very bottom, I've actually increased his estate by $96,000. The other thing I've done in here is I've made his investments more efficient over time. In the original baseline, the TFSA gets leaned on occasionally through retirement, whereas in my projection, it doesn't, meaning that he's more flexible in his 70s and 80s if there's unforeseen circumstances. Right about now, you may be asking yourself what number I'm using as Frasier's income target. Through this series, I've been progressively increasing that target as he's had more assets to put towards said target. So let's look at my spreadsheet to see where I stopped. So 2 weeks ago, I stopped at $52,000. Last week, $57,397. This week, I used the target of $93,132. It's the very, very tippy top of the third lowest bracket in Ontario. So now we're into the high 20s. I still want to do my best to keep them out of the 30% range. I really want to keep them out of the high 30s range, but for this, I targeted $93,132. Finally, we come to the place where I get to add spending to drive that goal achievement number way down. And last time I did this exercise with Ross and Rachel, someone commented that it'd be more fun to see what they could spend to drive them all the way down. Like, what's their full spending capacity? So that's more so what I did here. I calculated what is called the sustainability spending model, which is the amount of money that Frasier could spend without running out of money. It doesn't touch the condo or the equity or anything like that. And it turned out to be an additional $42,000 per year. So in this projection, starting at 65, instead of 42, I have Frasier spending an extra $50,000 all the way to 75. From there, it drops to 40,000 to age 85, and then we enter the no-go stage, and it drops to just $10,000 on top of the $60,000 he's spending on day-to-day activities. All of those recommendations and all of that extra spending is built in here, and now we find Frasier at 108% goal achievement. Still fantastic, which means there's actually still a little bit of extra spending that he could do, but I think this is a pretty good representation of what is possible. All in all, he has spent an additional $1.2 million on himself or his community. It did increase his tax now in the end by about $15,000. His OAS clawback is now down to zero. This is what I was going on before. And his estate obviously gets hit pretty hard. It's $2 million less than what it was, but he's still leaving $200,000 plus his condo, meaning that there is still a little bit of leeway, but in reality, this is a great representation of spending capacity for Frasier. If it's time for me to look at your financial situation to see how secure you are in terms of one of these four Frasiers, there will be a link in the description down below that comes directly to me. Till next time, keep planning.